So welcome to Platform Analytics Academy, Wednesday, October the 2nd. We have a really great one in store for you with a phenomenal speaker that we love having on when he's able to join us. So really good stuff today. A couple logistical things, and then we'll get right into it because I know he has a lot to share and some demos, so that's always great. So always this is for you, fresh ideas, better understanding, practical guidance. So there obviously will be some great ideas today that our speaker will be sharing with everyone. So this is really good stuff. This is being recorded, so feel free to sit back and enjoy. It will be out on the community later on today, tomorrow, some point. And of course, it'll be out on YouTube for us as well. So please ask questions. Utilize the Q&A, not the chat. Utilize the Q&A so we can keep a record of it. And there's also additional panelists that are on that can answer questions via type. If there is a question that comes about during the actual presentation demo and we feel like it's relevant to stop the speaker and ask that, we'll definitely do that. And then, of course, if there are questions that you may have that are unrelated to the content that we're having today, feel free to ask those as well. If we can get to those, we definitely will. If we run out of time, then we would just ask you to ask that question in the community, and you obviously can feel free to tag me inside of that question. Safe harbor. Just always like to make sure that we mention this. I don't know how much will be in this, but there obviously could always be something. So make sure that you keep Safe Harbor in mind as you're watching today. And of course, if you watch it later on as well, or if you share it out, make sure that that information is shared with them as well. My name is Thomas Davis, and I am the host. And we have Dan Grady, who is going to present for us today. Phenomenal presenter, speaker. Always fun when Dan is able to join us. Adam and Olga as well, and they'll be around to answer questions and things of that nature. So again, we're going to talk about process mining and platform analytics and how they're better together. And we know that they are because this is a direction that we are going. So with that, Dan, if you are ready, you're more than welcome to take over sharing and we can get rolling.
I am ready, and I always appreciate your introductions. I wish you could follow me around and introduce me everywhere. That would be fantastic. As Thomas just mentioned, my name is Dan Grady. I'm part of the process mining business unit here at ServiceNow. What I've got planned for today, this is actually based on a session that we ran at Knowledge 24. Was such a popular topic that it sold out. We had to run a second iteration of it. And we've also been running it recently at some of the summits in Chicago, Minnesota, and Atlanta, and again, sold out type of session. So we figured we'd take the opportunity to share it in a more recorded format with everyone. So we'll talk a little bit about kind of the ServiceNow's intelligent platform, with which many of you are probably aware of, and that's why you're here. Talk a little bit about getting to the why behind the KPIs that you might have on some of your dashboards and how process mining helps you do that. We'll talk about kind of embedded process mining insights. So kind of taking the things that process mining provides, that next level of insight, and embedding them inside of the stakeholder dashboards that you have today, and how these two things work together, performance or platform analytics and process mining. We'll jump over to a demo to show you some of those things live. And then there's tons of resources and additional content out there on the internet that dives deeper into these different areas. If you're interested, I'll share some of the more popular ones. We'll get your questions answered, and then we'll get you out of here. That's the plan for today. So I always like to start sessions with a quote. This is, I chose this one, or we chose this one for this session because it aligns to two of the high-level themes that we're going to be focusing on. Certainly, we want good results, but management by results is not the way to get to good results. We need to work on the causes of those results. And I like this quote, like I said, because it aligns to two specific themes. One is the difference between information and insights, the what and the why, and we'll be talking about that today. It also aligns to a theme that I'm very, very fond of, and that's the ability to use data, information, and insights, not just to report the news, but actually to influence and create the news. And that's one of the biggest advantages that we have as an in-platform solution, or it's one of the biggest advantages that this in-platform layer of intelligence provides. The fact that we have this intelligence layer of the platform is such a huge advantage when you think about actually using data to influence and create the news. And the story that I like to tell here is this. I've been in the analytics space for a long time. And over the last 30 years, every year Gartner puts out their study that says the adoption of business intelligence and analytics tools in an organization is about 27 to 31%. That number has not changed for the last 30 years. And the reason that that number hovers in the same area is the traditional approach to analytics, that third-party analytics solution that we all have inside of organizations. Some of us have multiples. The reason why that we stick at 30% is those tools fail to get beyond the corner office, right? I mean, that's a big piece of getting the most value out of all the intelligence that you have, or all the data that you have inside of your organization. Because if you think about it, right, the closer you get to the front lines in an organization, the less likely you are to get somebody to leave the system that they're doing work in to swivel someplace else to look at numbers, right? And if we want to use data and analytics to influence the behaviors and change some of the numbers on those executive level dashboards, we need to put it in the flow of people's day-to-day lives. The beautiful thing about in-platform analytics is we are already on the front lines. We are already at the operational levels. We are in a much better position to actually start using data to create and influence the news. That's the dirty little secret of all analytics, is that as much as we like to focus on executive level dashboards, the reality is those numbers on those executive level dashboards don't move just because we have executive level dashboards. They only start to move when we start to influence and change the behaviors of all the other stakeholders involved in that involved in that process, or whatever it might be. And there's, as you're aware, lots of different capabilities on the platform that fall into this intelligence layer. We provide a number of these capabilities packaged in out-of-the-box solutions throughout the platform, but we also give you those same solutions that we're using to create those packaged solutions for you to create your own content. And the two that we'll be focusing on here today are performance analytics, or platform analytics, and process mining. And we want to talk about how we can start using these two things together to start to create a more complete story for our stakeholders that we're supporting, and help them, right, provide them insights so they can start creating and influencing the news for their organizations. Now, many of you, some of you might know that I've been around here at ServiceNow for a little while, and I've been very tied to the platform analytics solution over those years. And people often ask him, like, we've already got a ton of dashboards that give us visibility into our processes. Like, how is process mining different? Well, traditional analytics, right, is very good at helping us ask and answer these very important questions. How many tickets, incidents, cases, problems, changes, whatever it might be, did we work? Which types were they? How long did it take to close those things? And probably most importantly, how are we performing against our targets, and are we improving our cycle times? Those are all super important questions that we hope that you're using dashboards just like this to ask and answer. But here's the deal. Most of us on this call have probably been doing this for a little while. And one of the things that I've learned in my time in the analytics space is this: information tends to be one of the most addictive and contagious things out there. You give somebody a little bit and they always want more. So the first thing that happens if we get a dashboard, and we get a dashboard like this out the door, before we can even high five each other that we got it out the door, somebody in leadership starts asking questions like, well, why are we missing our CSAT and ESET targets? Why are we missing our closure times, right? Why? And the answers to those follow-up why questions, they don't live in dashboards like this. They live in process mining. Process mining allows us to start asking and answering all those next level questions, all those follow-up questions to the things that people are seeing on those higher level dashboards. Things like, where is the process getting stuck? Where is there any unnecessary rework happening? Where are we spending or wasting time? Which vendors are speeding us up and which ones are slowing us down are my personal favorite. In the 8 years that I've been here at ServiceNow, I think every single customer I've ever worked with has asked me for this same report. So much so that I've given it a name. I like to call it the finger pointing report. Everybody wants to know who's holding on to the work the longest. I need to know who's holding on to the work the longest. Or if we're a more glass half full person, we call that the opportunity to improve report. These are all the types of questions that process mining allows us to start asking and answering. Essentially, we like to say that process mining gets us to the why behind those KPIs that we're rolling out with performance analytics or platform analytics. Someday I'll get that right. It's like when your sports team changes their name from like the Redskins or from the Indians to something else. Like if you've been rooting for that team forever, it's really hard to change how you speak about that team. And we can apply this process mining. That was a little side note there. If we can apply this process mining capability to a single table process like this incidents example here, where we're looking at how incidents are moving from state to state in the process and the volume and velocity between those transitions, really helpful if we're trying to find where there's rework patterns inside of this, or things that are getting stuck in an awaiting caller state for long periods of time. Here's my personal favorite, the finger pointing report. While I was at that last example, we were using process mining to look at state transitions. You can really use process mining to look at how anything is changing on a record. And one of the more popular ways, in fact, I think this is the most popular way that customers start using process mining, is to look at how work is moving from assignment group to assignment group in the process and where there might be bottlenecks there. And we can start answering the question of who's holding on to the work the longest, or do we have like, show me all the transfers that on average are taking longer than or not on average, that are taking longer than 2 days and focusing on those. Show me all the situations in which we have more than 2 teams involved and could we potentially streamline that process and get the work to the right team the first time. Really, really popular way and powerful way to start using process mining to ask and answer some of those next level questions. We also have this ability with process mining to do what is known as multi-dimensional maps. And these are really powerful for more involved workflows or processes, like say like an HR lifecycle event, like onboarding, where you have a high level HR case, a whole bunch of activity sets, and then a whole bunch of subtasks and requests that come off of that. These multi-dimensional maps help give us that end-to-end visibility into that entire process so we can look for bottlenecks there. Multi-dimensional maps are really powerful when you start thinking about all those requests that you have in your service catalog. If you think about the two primary locations or two primary places we have bottlenecks or in a request process, you've got your approval step where you have things sitting there waiting to be approved, or you have multiple levels of approval and where things get approved 100% of the time. Why even have them, right? That are slowing you down. And then you have the fulfillment tests themselves where things get stuck in an on hold or an awaiting vendor state. While reporting and analytics are great at allowing us to see the overall fulfillment time for a request, if you really want to understand where you're leaking air from your tires in a request process, where you potentially could plug some holes and regain some efficiencies and productivity for the organization, you want to be looking at them in this multi-dimensional map so you can see where the actual opportunities exist. And then lastly, as of the Vancouver release, we've opened this process mining capability up to external process data. God forbid you're running a business process outside of ServiceNow, but if you, I mean, it happens sometimes. And if you are, and you want to get visibility into where there are bottlenecks in that and where there's opportunities to improve that, or perhaps maybe some visibility into how you might want to reimagine that process on the ServiceNow platform, you can export process level data or audit level data from that external system, import it into ServiceNow, and we can apply our process mining capability on top of that. Again, just trying to help us tell that more complete story with the data and get us to that next level of insight that you might not be getting with more traditional approaches to reporting and analytics. All right, so hopefully those slides up front there kind of helped you understand a little bit of the difference between the what and the why, right? The information and insights, like why the two are different, reporting and performance analytics and process mining, and how they complement one another. And the beautiful thing about being an in-platform solution is that we create ways to allow these things to work together out of the box for you. And I'm going to walk you through in some slides the different areas in which both process mining and performance analytics talk to one another, or platform analytics. I will never get it right. And then we'll jump into an instance and look at those things live. So as of the Rome release, and I'm hopeful that everyone on this call is Rome or above. If you did not know, process mining has been available since Quebec, but as of the Rome release, you've had the ability from a KPI details or insights page to launch process mining right from there to mine the data behind that indicator. So it's, excuse me, on the left-hand side, it's a really small icon, but if you went into a KPI details or insights page and you were able to see that really small icon, you could click on that and it would process mine the data behind that indicator for you. So in one single click, it's going to launch a process mining and you'll get to that next level of visibility. It's great for those situations where you want to ask a follow-up question, like why some of these numbers might be this way. You also have the ability from any list view on the platform, so you can to launch process mining and mine that list or the incidents or whatever data is in that list. So one of the examples I always use is you might have a report on a dashboard today that shows you incidents or cases that have breached SLA. You drill down into that score report and you get to the list and right click on the column header, and now you can mine those incidents or cases that have breached SLA and get a visualized process map of those just to see where in the process they may have breached, which team was hanging on to it, which teams are transferring it right before the breach time consistently to give you that next level of insight that's much more actionable than just knowing that they breached themselves. Then in the Vancouver release, what we did is we gave you the ability to take those process maps and embed them as widgets on a dashboard. And this is, I think, an important piece in terms of starting to tell that more complete story for the stakeholder, right? Not everyone is going to live inside of the process mining workspace, but we want to start exposing the fact that they could have this level of insight into their process to them. And one of the best ways to do that is start embedding these process map widgets on the dashboards along with the other KPIs and operational reports that are important to them. In the Washington, D.C. release, we added a very specific feature. And it's, I don't know, some people call it a star diagram. I like to call it incoming and outgoing work analysis. But the idea is on any node of the map, when you drilled into it, what it would do is start to show you where the work was coming from and where the work was going to. That's really powerful if you think about that assignment group use case, that finger pointing report that I was mentioning earlier, where maybe you're responsible for a specific team and you want to get a better understanding of which teams are transferring work into your team and where are you sending work to start to kind of get an understanding of what's going on there, find ways in which maybe you can train up other teams to handle the work on their own or train your team up to handle some of that work itself. So just a unique way to start looking at how work is moving through the organization, and it's available on that process map widget as of the Washington, D.C. release. Also in Washington, we added this ability to look at embed process mining insights in the insights panel on your platform analytics dashboards. And you might be saying to yourself, like, hey, what are process mining insights? Well, I'll show you examples, I think, in the demonstration piece, but just at a high level, we keep showing you these visualized process maps, and they're awesome. But there's also a summary and insights page that comes as part of every process mining project, and you have the ability to configure both rule-based and automated improvement opportunities as part of the solution. We give you some out of the box as part of content packs, but you're going to wind up configuring your own for your own processes, the way that your organization works. But I'll give you an example of each rule-based and some of the more automated ones. So for example, you have the ability to configure and say, hey, show me all the work that goes into the state of awaiting caller info at least once, or I want to look at all of the work that goes into an on hold state more than 2 times as part of a process. So you can configure these very specific process scenarios to identify and help you get the data you need to prioritize which inefficiencies to act on first, right? Many organizations have a good idea of where their inefficiencies are in their process. They just haven't had a good way to capture the process data they need to help validate those hypotheses and prioritize which things to act on next. Then we have, those are rule-based ones, you give it very specific scenarios. Then we have automated detectors as part of these improvement opportunities. And these automated ones are good for the situations where you don't know what you don't know about your process. So these are things like we have a rework detector that's looking for things that are going A, B, C, back to A in the process. We have a ping pong detector that's looking for things that are going A, B, A, B, A, B over and over again. Very handy for that assignment group analysis. There's a slow transition detector. So it helps us flag all the situations where, let's say, 85% of your work is going from new to in progress in less than 2 hours, but there's 2% over here that's taking on average 8 days to make that transition. Maybe you want to focus in on those. That's so really helpful for situations where you don't know what you don't know and start to surface some areas that you might want to dig deeper into that you weren't even thinking about. The combination of the two, super powerful, right? I always like to compare these improvement opportunities to when I was playing hide and seek as a kid. Right? When I was playing hide and seek as a kid, I had a home field advantage. And I knew the 2 or 3 best hiding spots. So when I was way more efficient at finding my friends than they were at finding me. Same is true with a lot of our customers, right? You know where your inefficiencies are. You just haven't had a good way to get the data you need to help you prioritize which ones to act on next. And that's the real key because there's no shortage of opportunities to improve. You just can't act on them all at once. Process mining will start getting you some of those insights to help you identify where to start. Well, that was a long-winded way to kind of roundabout way to get to this feature, which is on any dashboard, you can start to expose those improvement opportunities, both the rule-based and the automated as of the Washington, D.C. release. When you create those improvement opportunities or configure them, you align them to KPIs like MTTR or the number of open incidents. And then for any dashboard in which you have MTTR or open incidents, you can choose to surface the insights related to those KPIs in that insights panel on the right-hand side of the screen. Super powerful, right? Again, Not everyone is going to be digging deep into the process mining workspace, but we want to start to expose to them information or insights, actionable things that they should dig deeper into to help them improve their process area. And then in the Xanadu release, we added what is going to seem like a very little enhancement to these process map widgets, but for me, it was huge. And for you, it's going to be huge. And for your stakeholders, it's going to be huge. Prior to the Xanadu release, these process map widgets, they allowed you to kind of filter down, dig into things. But what it didn't let you do is get to the records themselves behind this, which is something that we're so familiar with on the ServiceNow platform from any one of the solutions is I can always get to the records. So it was kind of like a gap that we plugged. So now from a process map, you can drill into the records, which I think is one of the biggest benefits to any sort of in-platform solution we have is that you can get to the details, right? For third-party analytics solutions and process mining solutions, when you start exporting data off the platform, you're very often stuck at that kind of summarized level of the information. But we all know that the actionable things, what we're going to do about what the data is telling us, that lives at the record level. That's where we get those actionable insights. So the ability to drill down into the detailed records now is a huge advantage as we start to take our conversations with our dashboards to that next level. Like, hey, this is great. I see there's an opportunity here, but what am I going to do about it? Let me start exploring those records and get a better understanding. Just allows you to continue that conversation. Many of you know that I like to call any sort of analytics that you're doing a conversation that you're having with the data. You ask it a question, it gives you an answer. Based on that answer, you ask it a follow-up question. Very often that conversation leads to the records themselves. We can now complete the conversation. All right, let's jump in and maybe, I don't know if I'm going to just check the Q&A and see if there's any questions.
Yeah, there's just one question, Dan, which is probably a really good one. Well, another one just popped in, but
All right.
paid entitlement, right? So Steven's asking, we had the ability, since Rome isn't process mining application that requires a separate paid entitlement, or is it freely available and we just overlooked it?
Good point, Stephen. It is not free. There is a cost associated with process mining. One thing that I would just say, and I don't like to talk about licensing on recorded sessions because there's always different things. I would say reach out to your account teams and understand your entitlement. But the entitlements have changed, or the way you can get entitled to process mining has changed over time. At the very beginning, when this was process mining was first released, initially released as process optimization and then renamed in Vancouver to process mining, it was only available via the ITSM Enterprise and CSM Enterprise bundles. We found in working with lots of customers that they loved process mining or they wanted other ways to get access to it. So there's newer ways to get entitled to process mining. So if you haven't revisited the licensing aspect to it or the entitlement aspect to it recently, I would just say reach out to your account team and just check in on it for that one. And then
Go ahead. You can go ahead. If you see it, go ahead.
I do see it and I'm reading it. Yeah, so it's just talking about how does it create, the question's about how does it create process improvement opportunities at the individual group level or overall process level. And that's kind of part of the art and science of using process mining. So you can actually apply process mining. We're going to do it here today. I'm going to create a process mining project today. So you'll see you can apply process mining at the overarching level for an entire process. Or you can say, you know what, I really want to look at process mining for this one specific group and look at how they're working their instance. Or we could actually start comparing group to group that might be doing similar work or different regions of the world. I'll show you some of that in the demonstration piece here today. And then the question about is process mining available in the GCC? Yes, it is. So pretty much anything that any of the other machine learning based solutions use the pro level capabilities like predictive and task intelligence. We have the same level of certs. So we're available in GCC, we're available on-prem. You can apply it in different ways, or it's available across kind of the infrastructure.
And then there was one in the chat, but we'll go ahead and ask it here. So, what roles are involved in process mining? Like, what persona would be doing the process analysis to find the bottlenecks?
Yep. So a good question. So there's two parts, maybe three parts to that answer. One, there are specific roles that you can give people in the ServiceNow platform to give them different levels of access to process mining. So that's the role question from maybe a platform administration level. Then the roles in the organization, kind of who does this, is a question that often gets asked. And that's going to vary from organization to organization. I've seen in organizations where you've got the service desk owner doing this, right? They've got access to dashboards, but they also wanted to dig in and they had a little bit of skills on this. What we see working best in organizations is that there's somebody in the organization that knows process mining inside and out. Sometimes that's the same person that knows reporting and analytics inside and out in the organization. Other times it's just somebody that they're part of the center of excellence, the continual improvement team, the process excellence team, the digital transformation team. Every organization seems to have a different way that they frame up the team that is looking or consistently looking for ways to improve. And they give them a different name. But usually, a lot of times we're seeing folks in that organization get their hands on process mining, learn it. And then what they wind up doing is they become the expert in process mining and they partner with the different process owners or service owners in the organization. And it's more of a two to tango situation where that person creates the projects, maybe shares them with the process owner, and they work through them together and say, look, I observe these things. I don't know the process as well as you because you're the process to me. Let's talk about what I'm seeing here and are there opportunities to make things better? So the who does it varies from organization to organization, but that two to tango type of situation is what we're seeing work best.
Awesome. Thank you. I think we're ready.
All right, let's jump over into an instance and I'll just show you a couple of these things live. So first we'll look at kind of how we can connect the reporting and analytics components and mine directly from there. So I just got a simple little dashboard here that I created, and this is a performance analytics time series widget. And on any one of these, I could drill down into the widget itself and get to the KPI details page. And you'll notice up here, it's super tiny. Somebody's going to watch this recording from our side in ServiceNow and say, yeah, we should really make that bigger so people can see it. But now that you on this call know that it's here, what you can do is you can click on this. And what it's going to do is it's going to mine the data behind that indicator and generate a visualized process map for that. As it's mining, in this case, I've already done it to save us some time. So you would see a progress bar here. Just in addition to that progress bar, there's this quick little 2-minute explainer of what is process mining. That'll kind of, for people that just clicked on it by accident and have no idea what's happening. There's a demo, like a 6-minute demo of process mining that you could link out to available here. And then some of the more popular resources like our process mining FAQ. We host a monthly process mining academy, very similar to this Platform Analytics Academy. I was joking that this is kind of like one of those Scooby-Doo crossover episodes, like where Batman and Robin or the Harlem Globetrotters showed up on Scooby-Doo type of thing. But we also have our own process mining academy. And then we also have something we call the use case series. What we've found is process mining is a new muscle for a lot of organizations. And if you've seen me in person, you know, you might not think it, but I actually have a Peloton. I'm the reason their stock prices drop so much, and people see me wearing their clothes. But when you start to learn a new exercise, there's like 30-second or 5-minute video that kind of shows you how to do the exercise. We've done the same thing with process mining. So out on the community, there's a use case series link. And what we have is now there's 11 because I just posted one yesterday. Things like how to use process mining to do SLA breach analysis, how to use process mining to look for automation opportunities, how to use process mining to help you understand the impact of a process change, how to use process mining to do multi-hop analysis. So these are just short little 5-minute videos in this use case series to help you better understand or inspire you on how you could potentially use process mining. And then once we're done here, we could hit open in Workbench, or maybe I talk too long and I can't hit open in Workbench right now. But you would hit open in Workbench and it would get, oh, it's spinning. I'm just being impatient. It would get you the visualized process map of that the data that we just mined. And away you go. You'd start digging into your process data. And you've got your summary and insights page. There's not a lot of insights here. There's some rework there because it's a very small amount of data in this case. But that's one click from a performance analytics dashboard to get you to here. Platform analytics. Same thing with reports, but it's a little bit different, right? So I could have this report here where I'm looking at incidents that are breached. breached by CMDB class and would get me to a list view. And then right from this list view, right, everybody loves the launch interactive analysis, but if you have process mining enabled, you're going to see launch process mining. And what would happen now is it would create a process mining project with the same filter criteria that I have here for these 2,056 incidents that had breached. So in a single click, it'll take me to the process mining workspace. It would create the project for me, and then I could go back and adjust it if I wanted to. But you'll notice that my filter conditions that were there for the report have got carried over, and I should have the same level of data or same data that I'd be. And then I can adjust these things, add some of those improvement opportunities to this project. And it's just a way to kind of quickly get you to this screen in which you've got the data that you've seen in your report, and now you want to mine it. It creates most of the project for you. So that's those that are going from platform analytics, performance analytics, and reporting to process mining. Now here's the flip side, where we're starting to embed process mining in our dashboards themselves. And in this dashboard, it's a little cluttered. I wouldn't design this in this way for real life, but I wanted to put two examples on this dashboard. One where I'm looking at how incidents are moving from state to state in the process, and then I have this one here where things are moving from team to team in the process. And just so you can see, if I chose to, right, if we had interactive filters on this screen, the maps could isolate down. Let's see, IT support, maybe Americas. They're going to respond to your interactive filters. All right, and now I can expand this out a little bit. Maybe look at some more connections. On this one, I don't know that there are a lot more. Ooh, yeah, I got messy pretty fast. Let's bring it back. And then that how that incoming and outgoing analysis would work, I could click on this here, and it would get me to kind of all the work that's coming into that team. Let me just look at incoming, maybe bring the connections down a little bit, and then look at all the work that we're shipping or places we're shipping work to. So that's that incoming and outgoing analysis. Maybe we'll clear this and bring everything back over here on the process side. Got it. Maybe I want to look at the things awaiting caller info here, narrow it down to those. And I've got this weird scenario where, like, hey, why are these things going from awaiting caller info back to new? Maybe I want to go look at those 10 records. I can drill down to just those 10 records right from there. So that's the new thing we added in Xanadu, the ability to get down to the records right from these visualizations. And then the last thing I want to show you over here is these insights. All right, and this is that ability. So based on the fact that I have MTTR on this dashboard, these things are tied to my MTTR KPI. So when I ran a process mining project and I've linked that project to this dashboard, if it sees anything that are linked to my MTTR KPIs, it's going to start surfacing those insights for me, and I can drill in and look deeper. Again, and the idea is to kind of like bring the insights and put them in the flow of people's day-to-day lives, rather than forcing everyone to go over to that process mining workspace to start digging into it. That might not be their job, right? We just want to make sure they're aware that there's an opportunity to improve. Then there might be somebody else in the organization that partners with them to do a little bit more digging with process mining and all the slicing and dicing of the process data to help them identify improvement opportunities. All right, this is both these widgets and these insights are a great way to expose people in the organization to the fact that you do now have this next level of insight. Process mining as a concept has been around for over 20 years, but many people still don't even know that it's a thing, right? So this is a great way to kind of surface to the organization that this power is now available to them, or this level of depth is available to them. Cool. Now, just in terms of adding a process mining map to your dashboard, just so you can see, if you've come in here, you're going to see you have a new visualization type, a process mining map. If you were to add a process mining map to your dashboards, all you're really going to do is choose from your process mining projects and add it. I don't know that this one's actually ran, but you pick a project that you've created from a process mining perspective, and it's as simple as that to add it to a dashboard. Now, you're probably saying to yourself, Dan, that's awesome, but like, how hard is it to create a process mining project? Well, I'm going to show you that it's not hard at all. I probably should have framed that question with, how easy is it to create a process mining project? I usually like to joke, those of you that have seen me do this before, that if you can dodge a wrench, you can dodge a ball. Or if you can build a ServiceNow report, you can start to visualize your process in a matter of minutes. So let's do it. You're going to come here to your process mining workspace. right? Process mining workspace. Once you have the process mining plugin turned on, you get to the workspace, you hit create new project. In Washington, we moved to a guided setup experience for creating process mining projects. So what we were finding in some of our larger customers, they were pushing process mining out to more people in the organization, and those people didn't have traditional ServiceNow list and form skills. So there was a high demand for this guided setup experience, so we added it in Washington. So we'll just call this one Scooby-Doo project. And you'll pick your table that you want to mine. Any table that has auditing turned on is turned on for over 180 tables on the platform by default is going to show up in this list. We are using the audit log data to create these maps. So we'll just use incident because that's where I have my demo data. But again, HR case, customer service case, you name it, you can do it. And then once you're going to get to this next screen, you're going to scope your analysis for the use case. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to add some filter criteria. We always like to guide people to say, if you're trying to analyze and improve a process, you want to focus on work that has completed the process. Best way to do that is say active is false. Could you mine open work? Of course you could. But when you start doing that, you're comparing apples to oranges. Sometimes your durations are going to be all wonky. You could do it, but I mean, the best way to do it is to use active is false, in my opinion. Then maybe you want to focus in on a certain group, a certain category. The person's question before, like, hey, do you want to look at the overall process or just a specific group in the process? You're just going to filter the data in your project based on the use case and the questions you're trying to answer. I also often get asked, like, how much data can you mine? You can mine as much as you want, but the reality is I hope that your process has evolved over the last 7 years. And you probably should be focusing on, usually a month or a quarter's worth of data is good to get an understanding of kind of where the bottlenecks are, where there's opportunities to improve. If you wanted to do longer term trend-based analysis, guess what? You've got a solution on the platform that's built for that. Platform Analytics is to do the trend-based analysis. And as you've just seen, if there's a month historically that you see a spike, you can drill into that and mine the data just behind that month if you're interested in doing that. I love having these things on the same platform because now you have all the tools at your disposal or solution at your disposal to kind of do the right analysis with the right solution or pick the right solution for the right questions you're trying to ask and answer, and you can combine them. So let's hit save here. I've now filtered it. And then you need to add an activity, right? What is an activity? An activity is the thing that's changing over time about the record. We've looked at a couple of different examples, right? Looking at how things are moving from state to state in the process, how things are moving from assignment group to assignment group in the process. You can have up to 5 activities per map. You want to put state assignment group priority in the same map. You could totally do that. I like to start with 1 activity per map, but again, your use case is going to dictate how you want to combine things. And then, of course, you want to have breakdowns to slice and dice that map. Now, I know many of you here are familiar with Platform Analytics. And you hear the word breakdown, you might cringe and say, I don't got 45 minutes to set up a breakdown today. Well, look at this. With process mining, I want to add a couple of breakdowns. I'm simply just choosing from a list. Right? If you've got custom fields, they're going to show up in that list right here. Now we're done. Then the next thing you're going to do is you're going to add your improvement opportunities. We give you some as part of content packs, both automated and rule-based. I'm just going to add an automated one here, some rule-based ones here from the content pack. But if I wanted to add, let's say, an automated one or create a new rule-based one, here you go. You click on new. I can add a rule-based one. Maybe I want to just look for things where there's extra steps in the process, in this case here. So I'll add an extra step detector, meaning I got a variant of the process that goes A, B, C, D, F, and I got another variant that goes A, B, C, D, E, F. It'll flag those situations. So I'll just call this one extra step. Here's my different pattern detectors that I'm choosing from. Which field? Well, I want to use my state field. If there's an extra step, that's probably non-conformant, so I'll categorize it. And if I had an KPI that I want to link it to, I would link it here. That way it would start to show up in those other dashboards because I've made that linkage. We'll hit save and exit, and now we're done. I can hit review and mine. It'll give me all the details about what I just configured. Great, and I'll hit mine project. That's it. That's what it takes, right? So like, it's super easy to get started with process mining. I think that's one of the biggest benefits to it is that, like, hey, you see the power, you see how it complements all the other reporting and analytics that you're doing on the platform today. And guess what? I'm pretty sure that everyone on this call has the skills to do what I just showed you. right? It's not like a heavy lift to get started with this solution. What's happening now is it goes out, it harvests the relevant data from the audit log based on the filter criteria that we put in and the activities and breakdowns we selected. It then takes that information, passes it off to the machine learning infrastructure that we're using for same machine learning infrastructure in your data center that you're using for predictive and task intelligence to do all that heavy duty number crunching. So there's no impact on the performance of the instance. And then when it's done, it spits the finished model back into the instance and away you go. This takes anywhere from 30 seconds, in this case, 3 seconds, 8 seconds exactly, to a couple of minutes, depending on the volume of data you're placed in line with the machine learning infrastructure. But again, that's it. That's what it takes. Once we have this project, then you saw that's how I would just pick this project, the Scooby-Doo project, and I would add it to a dashboard if I wanted to put it on a dashboard. All right, I'm going to pause there and let's just see if there's any questions that have come in as we went through that. Let's see.
Yeah, we have a few here.
All right, we'll get to them.
Yep, the one from Nikish, it probably came in at some point, and I guess we just need to figure out what it's relevant to. But it says, are there exceptions to what filter conditions get carried over? I'm guessing when we're talking about process mining, creating an insight, maybe.
I think that like, hey,
Oh, Olga,
so
you have
just
something?
yeah, Nikesh, just the one that I was on there actually had related list conditions in the conditions as well. So I've not seen any exceptions to anything I've done. And like I said, the one that we did also had a related list. So that's kind of, if you were to think of like where there might be an issue or might get hung up, it would be the related list conditions because that's kind of like secondary. So I've not seen anything, but you know, you never know.
Olga, did you have something you wanted to add?
No, no.
Okay. And then we have another one that says, what's the process of analyzing this data? If I see this, then possibly these are the culprits to solve, et cetera, et cetera. Is there such an analysis document or training of making sense of the?
Yeah. So great question, Dunstan. I think that's where those use case series videos come into play, is to kind of say, hey, like I said, like some of those improvement opportunities, right? They're going to surface for you on the first screen here, and then you can dive into the process map for those. So there's these improvement opportunities are the things that kind of help you start the conversation of where to look next. Then you start to use, when you dig in, you start to use the process map to slice and dice. I'm going to point you at a resource in addition to those use case series, something called the Guide to Getting Started with ServiceNow Process Mining, the community. And that kind of has a specific curriculum that I give to new ServiceNow process mining customers. Start here, learn how to create your projects. So there's a recording that walks you through creating projects. Then there's a recording that specifically focuses on all the different bells and whistles that you have inside of this process mining workspace and how the different ways that you can apply them. So there's definitely materials that you could use there. All right. Oh, I see one from a very familiar name. It's good to see you.
Is that the next one from Quentin?
Yep. Yes. So
yeah, he's curious about whether or not it can be used on a PDI or non-prod instances with a limited number of records mined.
So the PDI answer and the personal development instance answer is, to my knowledge, no, because those instances are not connected to the machine learning infrastructure. And as you just saw, process mining uses the machine learning infrastructure to do this number crunching. That's designed that way to kind of make sure we don't impact the performance of your host instance there. So unless something's changed there that I'm not aware of, the answer to the PDI question is no. The sub-production question, though, is yes. And you can mine up to 3,600 records in your per project in your sub-production environment. The key there, though, if you want to start playing around with process mining in your sub-production environment, is you want to make sure that the next time you clone to that environment, you include the audit log data. By default, audit log data is not included in clones. There's a checkbox on the clone profile that you need to uncheck to make sure that happens. But once you do that, you can turn on the plugins and away you go. Do exactly what I just did here, up to 3,600 records. So there's a question about what are the plans to use Now Assist with process mining? You did put the safe harbor slide up there, right?
Yes.
Perfect. So safe harbor, remember, anything I say and do here today can't be held against me in the court of law. But one of the ways, and actually this is, it's working. We're doing it here already at ServiceNow because we are customer zero. One of the use cases is for work notes analysis. So in Xanadu, what we did is on one of these transitions, let's say I don't know that this project has it, but I'm going to try to show you here. I need to move the questions and answers out of the way. So on these transitions, you'll notice that you have this investigate option, and we can get to the records, we can run clustering, we can do root cause analysis, and you'll notice something here called work notes analysis. Now, the reason this is grayed out is because I don't have work notes in my demonstration instance. But what we added in Xanadu is the ability to run clustering on work notes and comments. And for those of you, and this is a call which I think most are familiar, the clustering capability on the platform works on string fields. Well, work notes and journal fields, work notes and comments are journal fields. So clustering has historically not been available. We've kind of made that now available in process mining to do clustering on work notes in the Xanadu release. In the Yokohama release, guess what? We then will be applying Now Assist on top of those clusters to help summarize those clusters for you and make it much easier to consume the potential actions that you should be taking or the whys and the insights within those clusters. So that's the first iteration of where we'll be using Now Assist with process mining available or should be and targeted for Yokohama release.
And then is process mining available for vulnerability response, configuration, module dashboards?
Yeah, that's one that I would say the person asking that question, let's connect with your sales team and dig into that use case specifically and what you want to do. The answer is yes. Any table that has auditing turned on is available to you to apply process mining. It's going to be, there's the entitlement aspect of it that we just want to work through. So I would say that's probably one for a follow-up conversation. But the technical answer is yes. The entitlement answer is we need to work through that with you.
Okay, one other one real quick. Is there or will there be a way to overlay the current workflow for the process being mined so you can visually see the difference on what was mined?
Yes, I love this. So I'm going to show you now. I wasn't prepared to do this. This isn't part of the content for this, but it's one of my favorite use cases. It's actually in the use case series. Is the before and after a process change scenario. So I think that this project is set up to show you this. But the idea is, hey, you can do this comparison where I say, hey, maybe I want to look at a certain region on the left, another region on the right, a certain group on the left, a certain group on the right to see kind of the differences between the two. Or another popular way that customers use this is to look at the impact of a process change. So let's say, the process changed on October 31st. Show me all the work on the left-hand side that closed before the process change. Show me all the work on the right-hand side that closed after the process change. And now let me get an understanding of what the impact of that change might be. It looks like after the process change, our average durations are down 1 hour. But the beauty of this is not only can I see before and after, if you had a KPI and you were tracking and trending the KPI, sometimes things get hidden in the summary level data, right? This allows you to start to see, were there any adverse effects to that change that maybe the overall high level number looks good right now, but I'm starting to see a percentage of work is starting to shift this way in the process. And I might want to take it. That's going to hurt us down the line from a resolution perspective. I want to start getting ahead of that now. So this side-by-side comparison, really powerful way to start looking and answering that question, whoever answered or asked that one.
And then the last one I think goes back to the PDI question about.
So PDI, no, but I see it says partner here. My understanding, and I don't always have all the details around this, but my understanding is that partners has access to something we call Demo Hub. Demo Hub instances have process mining narratives that have the necessary data for you to start playing with process mining like we're doing here. So if you're a partner, check with your partner manager to see if you have access to something called Demo Hub. And if you do, you can get access to a narrative that has this data to play with it. All right. Oh, perfect. Well, if you got more questions, keep putting them in. We got some time, right? We've got about 10 minutes. I did want to wrap with a couple of things, though. First,
we did have one. I'm sorry. We did have one user just had their hand up, and I will
take that as a high.
real quick.
Yeah, that's a high five, Thomas.
Is that a high five?
That's
the way
so
I'm
you're awesome.
it.
Yeah. But let's put
Axel,
that.
can you talk? Can you hear us? You are unmuted, so if you want to ask your question, feel free.
All right. Well, we're waiting put it in the Q&A. I just want to got one more slide, then we'll look at the resources, and then we'll go back to questions just to make sure, if we do hit the top of the hour and people have to leave, you got all the information. Now that you've seen what process mining is and how it ties to performance analytics, I always like to kind of remind everyone that you have what you need now in the instance to tell a very complete story to your stakeholders. Give them both the information and the insights, the what and the why. And if you think about it, um, the reporting on the platform is fantastic at helping us ask and answer this one very specific question. Where are we right now? And for a lot of operational use cases, that's the answer, the question we're trying to answer and the information that we need. But, right, most of you probably know this. If I came to you and said, hey, you have 118 open cases right now, is that good or is that bad? Just by knowing where you are right now, you don't have all the information you need to effectively answer that question. Now let's layer in performance analytics or platform analytics. What platform analytics gives us is the infrastructure and the engine to start snapshotting data over time. So we can not only answer the question about where we are right now, we can answer the question of where did we come from? And probably the most important question we can answer is, are we improving or not? Everything you're doing on the platform is designed to help us improve the way in which work gets done. The combination of these two help give us the answer of whether those improvements are taking place. You also get the infrastructure with performance or platform analytics. I'm never going to be able to get that right. To actually set targets and goals so you can communicate to people in the organization where you want to be and start to drive some of those behaviors. You get the forecasting information that helps you understand when you potentially will reach your targets and goals. And then if we layer in process mining, we now have visibility into the levers that we could be pulling to help us reach those targets and goals more quickly or adjust those targets and goals because we found ways to do things more efficiently. You have all of this in a single platform, right? And that intelligent platform to really help you start to tell that complete story for your stakeholders. Now, for some of you, you've probably heard me use this analogy before, but I had a colleague who used this to describe kind of the combination of all these things. He said, the reporting on the platform is like a scoreboard at the game. It tells you the home team is up 28-27. It tells you how much time is left in the game, how many timeouts each team has, which is all useful information. But what it doesn't tell you is this, that the home team was up 28-3 and the visitors just scored 24 straight points. It doesn't tell you that the home team's best player just got hurt 2 minutes ago because you know visibility into the momentum inside of the game. And you would hope that you would coach or manage that game differently once you have visibility into the momentum inside of the game. Same is true with your businesses, right? With platform analytics, you get visibility into the momentum you have inside of your organizations, and you can manage your business more effectively once you have visibility into the momentum. But now imagine you could have the plays you should be running to actually win the game. That's what process mining gives you. It gives you that playbook, gives you the playbook, and gives you all the different plays that you could be running to help you win the game. And the combination of the three of those things together is so powerful. It's such a great place to be. And the beauty of it is you can embed all these things right in the flow of the stakeholders' day-to-day lives, so you can start to influence and create the news inside of your organizations with all the data that you have on the platform. All right, we'll go back and see if there's any new questions that may have come in while we were kind of just going through that slide. I'm not seeing any new ones in the Q&A, but get those in. Oh, wait, one just came in.
Yep. Is there a way to get a diagram of all processes and how they are used in ServiceNow in a flowchart form without process mining?
Not to my knowledge, but that's not my area of expertise, Drew. I've not seen that, I should say. I don't know the answer to that. But process mining is great at showing you the reality of what's going on. That's kind of what it's meant to do, but I don't know about the overall catalog of all processes and the design flows. All right, in terms of resources, and I'll come back to questions after I get through this real quick. So we covered a little bit today, but there is so much more to cover. There is a Now Learning course out there called Process Mining Essentials. It's a little dated at this point, but it's a self-paced training, about 90 minutes, 45 if you do it at 2x speed, if you wanted to kind of get into it that way. There's a really great white paper we have out there on the community. As you all know, that we're customer zero, so we've applied process mining to over 50 or 60 different processes here at ServiceNow. We've got a white paper out there that talks about how we've structured our program for process mining and some of our initial findings from the initial processes we mined. The community forum, right? So there is a process mining product hub. Our team checks it every morning as we drink our coffee. So if you got questions and you need the answers, post it there. It's also where we post a lot of these resources. So it's a great place to kind of bookmark and get familiar with. One of those things that you'll find out there is the Process Mining Academy. We host it every third Friday of the month. There's about 28 or 9 recorded sessions out there, deep dives into different areas of process mining, in addition to some of the getting started stuff. And there's sessions on specific workflows like process mining for HR or customer service management or field service management. I've already mentioned the use case series that's also available via the community. And then every fourth Friday of the month, we host kind of open forum office hours. You show up, we talk process mining, you bring your questions, you learn from other customers. It's just a kind of, again, no real structured content. Although what we do at the beginning of every one is a process mining 101 because we did a couple of them, and the questions that people came with were, "What is process mining?" So we just figured we're going to do a little 5-minute 101 at the beginning of every one of those sessions, just to get that one out of the way. Other additional resources that would be good based on you attending this session is there's a Process Mining Academy session that talks actually very similar to this content about extending the reach of process mining through platform analytics. It's very, very similar, but it maybe goes into a little bit more detail. And then I mentioned this guide to getting started with ServiceNow process mining. So this is that reference to the article, the curriculum that I would build for somebody that's just starting with the solution. So search that up on the community site. And then if you're a QR code person, you can use these QR codes to get to all of those different things. So for the person that asked about, can you put the links somewhere? This is a good way to get them. All right, last chance for romance. I'm going to check the questions one more time. Yeah, so what is the
Yeah, it's
impact to
asking about
resources?
resources.
Yeah, that's why we use that machine learning infrastructure to do the heavy work. So you saw when I created the project, there was kind of those little purple bars. The first one is when we're kind of accessing the data from the audit log. What we've done to reduce any sort of impact on the performance of the instance, so we've broken that up into 900 record queries. So it's not this one massive query we're running. We've smartly designed it to kind of be short, very targeted queries. So reduce any sort of impact there. And then all the hard work happens on that machine learning infrastructure. So to date, we've seen no customer complain about performance impact based on process mining. And it's been around since the Quebec release, so that's a while. Oh, yes. Can you process mine based on catalog item workflow? Yes, that is I shouldn't say my favorite use case, right? My favorite use case is the finger pointing report and looking at assignment groups, but catalog items and looking at approval bottlenecks and fulfillment task bottlenecks in the same view is one of my favorite types of analysis to do with customers or favorite ways to use process mining. I'll give you one example. Recently, I was working with a customer. We found that there was 727 requests that had an approval step that was taking longer than 2 days. Those 727, there was a total of 7 years worth of lost time in the approval step. And that in the fulfillment tasks themselves for those 727, the work in progress to closed, there was 7 days. So 7 years of time lost waiting for approval for 7 days of actual fulfillment time. It was insane, and that's the type of stuff that you can start to see, and every customer has those situations. And what we found is that there was actually, they were actually using mobile approvals, or they had the option to use mobile approvals, but 95% of the approvals were still coming in via the desktop UI. They just needed to market that mobile approval capability a little bit more. And we're able to see who are the worst offenders in terms of the approval pieces and what departments and those things. So it's one of my favorite use cases is the catalog items. Can this be used for knowledge management? The answer is yes. Again, any record that is being audited, right, and has things changing on it, we can apply process mining to. I haven't seen a lot of people ask and using it for knowledge management yet, but there's no reason that you couldn't. If you wanted to look at kind of how things are moving from draft to throughout the life cycle of a knowledge article, certainly could. But I haven't seen a lot yet, but I'd love to dig into it with you. It's one of my favorite. If you couldn't tell, I'm pretty passionate about this topic. I love process mining. And I love working with customers. One of the things I always say is that if you've seen the movie Jurassic Park, there's that scene where the guy that owns the island is there watching the baby raptor being born. He's like, I like to be here every time a new dinosaur is born. I love to be there when customers turn process mining on for the first time. It's so much fun to see your reactions to the reality of what's actually happening inside of your workflows. I really love that part of my job. Some more questions. I know we're coming up on time. Thomas, how do you want to handle the questions that are coming in?
I mean, if you have time and they have time, we can definitely hang out and do those. Obviously, we want to be cognizant of people's time. So if you need to drop, you're more than welcome to drop. But if we can answer them, then let's by all means do it.
All right, let's do it. So one of my process mining friends that has been using process mining a while has confirmed in the Q&A that they've used it for knowledge management. So awesome. And also, I might follow up and kind of see how that use case went, so I can learn a little bit more. Can you test it with non-prod? Yes, you can test it in non-prod. Just make sure you clone down to non-prod with your audit log data, as we talked about earlier. So you can, and then you can mine up to 3,600 records. Yeah. So actually, this is another question about knowledge, process mining with knowledge management. So here's what I'm going to do is I'm going to reach out to the person that says they've done it already. We'll talk a little bit, and then maybe we have a Process Mining Academy session in the future focused on process mining for knowledge management. Cool. And the person that's done it before said they used it to look for kind of that approval step, like, hey, how long did it take for knowledge management to be approved, or knowledge to determine how long approvals were taking.
Are we good with all of them now at
I
this point?
think so. I think we got all the questions. I'm just checking in the chat to see if there was any in the chat by mistake, but I don't see them there. So I'll leave it to you, Thomas. I think there's
Okay.
questions about the recording. I'm assuming it will be recorded
Yep.
and posted as.
Yes, it absolutely will. It'll be out in the community later on this evening or tomorrow, depends on when I actually get the recording. But let me say this, Dan, thank you very, very much. Really appreciate when you can come on and you can share this information. And just even based on the comments that were coming through, this is really good stuff and really great session. So truly appreciate it. And it's always awesome being able to have this recorded and get into our library as now a source for when the questions come in. So really appreciate that and thank you for that. So in a couple of weeks, we will be having an Ask the Expert session, and if you have more questions about this, maybe I can entice Dan to pop in on that and be a panelist. He won't have to do anything but answer questions if he chooses, but we'll talk about that. We got a couple of weeks to persuade him. But in any case, yeah, come back in 2 weeks and we'll have Ask the Expert. So go ahead and get your questions together, have those ready. That is a first come, first serve, and we usually have around 7 to 9, 10 panelists that'll be on. So a lot of questions will get answered via type, and we'll have some that'll be answered out loud live. But these are always really great sessions. So again, thank you, Dan. Thank you for the panelists. I think they're already gone. And thank you for all of you that came today and that are still hanging out. Sorry, we went over a couple minutes, but we'll see you in 2 weeks. Thank you.